Welcome to this first Workman webinar titled How Can I Assess and Influence the Horse's Gait in Practice? Tonight will be a 1 hour webinar. If we can leave questions and answers till after we've finished, chat is open. So any questions you have regarding the webinar during the presentation, if you could send by chat or wait till the end, and we'll go through questions after the hour. There is a chat button, so you can press the chat button. It's great to be here. Thanks for joining me. This is my first webinar for Werkman Hoof Care. So we'll start when we're all ready. So just tonight is going to be a little bit about why we measure and what is Werkman BLACK. Some of you here will be familiar with Werkman BLACK already, and I hope you can gain some knowledge and experience from that. We'll have a practical example and a conclusion. So a bit about me. I guess you can guess by now, I'm an ambassador for Werkman Hoof Care. I've been with Werkman since 2017, and I'm also an examiner for the Worshipper Company of Farriers. I'm a practical farrier. You know, I shoe horses day by day. I enjoy competing. I work with my son Josh. We're from Staffordshire in the Midlands in England. During my career, I've had a general farrier practice. I'm very lucky to live in a great area. There's lots of horses in my area. My practice is very varied. During my later career, I embarked on my education. So I took my associate of the Worshipper Company of Farriers in 2010, and on from that, my fellowship in 2017. From that, I was asked to become an examiner for the Worshipper Company of Farriers, and also an ambassador for Werkman Hoof Care. And I respect Werkman Hoof Care, what they're about. As you can see here, some of my mates. Magnus Smederod, good friend from Sweden. He's part of the Werkman Hoof Care team, and together we're a team of testers. So we started on the Werkman BLACK project, testing Werkman BLACK in the field. Also coming up with innovations and new ideas, sharing ideas with the team and with Crystal and Ryan and the team at Werkman Hoof Care. So together we are strong. Yeah, one of the taglines from Werkman also. As we'll all be in the same situation at the moment. It's tough times. Yeah, we're affected. I'm affected. I'm probably 50% down on my normal work. And one of the things that we can get from this, new ideas. Yeah, that's why I'm here now, to share this with you. I can't interact in the normal way I would do clinics. Workmen are really innovative, and they want to also educate farriers and share new ideas with them as well. So tonight I'm going to show you some of the things that I've discovered, share some of my thoughts, ideas, and hopefully you'll have some interesting facts to take away. So farriery is a skilled profession and craft. We all know that. Everyone's got their own individual way of shoeing a horse, trimming a horse. You know, what one person does, another may do slightly different. We all get there in the same manner. Usually the end result, we're aiming for the same thing, the betterment of the horse, and doing the right thing for the horse, and keeping horses sound, comfortable, and performing at their optimum. And experience and skills determine your choices. I've been a farrier for all of my career, so from 18 years old, 35 years, and some of the things I know now, and I look at some of the guys that I work with, the younger guys, and I think, oh wow, I wish I'd have known the things I know now when I was younger. I was 25. You know, and this is the great thing about sharing these kind of things, thoughts and ideas. workmen are very proactive in that, in interaction and educating farriers, and that's why I'm on board. So experience and skills determine our choices. Farriery, like in many crafts and professions, tests all our senses and perception. You know, skills, senses, and perception. As you see, eyes, our hearing, what we hear. You know, our thought process, how we're going to come up with the end result. You know, what we're going to do to improve that horse's performance. And hands, of course. You know, hands-on. It's a very hands-on job. You know, one thing that's missing off there is the nose. And if you've got a nose like mine, which sometimes we use, you know, abscesses, horses with thrush. We all know, you know, we use all of our skills, senses, and perception, you know, and in our daily routine and how we shoe horses. And we've got to have a plan, you know, and it's about having a plan and maximising the end result. So as you see from the pictures here, you know, again, skill, profession, and craft. Everyone has a slightly different way of doing things. We all get there in the same way. This horse was shod in a fairly unconventional method. You know, some of you may recognise this shoe. Personally, I don't use this shoe, but this horse had a good result with this shoe. You know, his performance was very good. You know, he was sound with this shoe on, and you know, we can't dismiss these ideas. There's new ways of shoeing, and I never look at a horse and don't have some thought and idea of how I can incorporate maybe something I've not discovered before. And again, it's wide open, and the way that we can help horses, you know, by trying new thoughts and ideas. So one of the things we're going to talk about tonight is a case study, and we've each of the workman team farriers, we've chosen a horse that's really helped us in that journey, you know. And my chosen horse tonight was Charlie, and Charlie's an eventer, and as you see, shod in a very conventional manner, with a frog pad, dental impression material, aluminium shoe, graduated. And Charlie was presented to me at a lameness clinic. Often in my daily work, I work alongside vets, and we're assessing lameness. And Charlie was one that came to us with a lameness. And we're going to follow Charlie throughout this presentation tonight. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how Charlie presented, and when we measured Charlie with Werkman BLACK, and how it was a great moment for me to realise how accurate Werkman BLACK was, and how it helped me to understand more about Charlie's difficulties and why he was lame. One thing I noticed, and again, keep this picture in your mind as we go through this presentation, is these nail heads. Charlie was shod very, very nicely. You know, shod a well-shod horse, but he was lame. And unfortunately, this isn't the lameness video. This is a video sometime after shoeing, because we shod Charlie 4 or 5 times. This was the first time we saw him, and what struck me was the nail heads were very proud, and that with an aluminium shoe, as you know from experience. Sometimes that can cause difficulties. I know that we shouldn't put our thumb behind a horse's foot when we're looking at medial lateral balance. The guy that took the picture for me unfortunately had his thumb there, but as you can see, if you can see my cursor, which I'm sure you all can, Charlie had a medial lateral imbalance. This is lateral, this is medial. And I'm sure you'd agree, a well-shod horse. Maybe, I mean, I don't like to judge a horse's shoeing job at the end of the shoeing cycle. You know, we don't know. I don't know how Charlie's foot grows during that 5-6 week period. So a nicely shod horse, but he was lame. And I'll show you how we measured Charlie's gait and what we did, and hopefully you'll see for yourselves with all the new material that we've got here. So what we want to talk about is we see at a frequency of about 25 hertz, frames of about 40 milliseconds. If you imagine a TV screen transmits at 60 hertz, sometimes more modern TVs, maybe 120 hertz. And now I was reading some of the really top model TVs are transmitting at 240 hertz, but we can't see up to 60 hertz. That flicker, a fluorescent tube, fluorescent light, or a TV flicker, the reason that it transmits at 60 hertz is we can't actually see that fast. So we see at a frequency of about 25 hertz. So as you see in these frames, and I think what's important to note here is we're looking at horses that walk and trot. And the fascinating thing is, like, when we start looking at horses that canter and gallop, I mean, that's even faster. So often the frequency that we're looking at horses, especially on a trot up, like you see with Charlie earlier on, by the time they're out of our distance of range of vision as well, we certainly can't see footfalls as fast as that. So just to remind us, we see it at a frequency of about 25 hertz, but a hoof landing of a horse takes an average of 18 milliseconds or less. We know that, and as you see, and also here, I know this video is 3 seconds long, and Charlie takes 7 strides in 3 seconds. So just to give you an idea, that that's fairly fast in trot. And if you're looking at footfall of Charlie, it's very difficult at trot to exactly pinpoint where his foot is landing. And often the lame horses that I see, we're dealing with medial lateral imbalances, and often footfall is a big part of that. So when a hoof is landing slowly, say 30, 35 milliseconds, and as you'll see during this presentation, we'll talk more about that, about the milliseconds and the landing timings. So if you're seeing at 30, 35 milliseconds, that's often when we can see it, then it's slow enough for us to see with our eye. But the optimum time, sometimes below 20 milliseconds, we can't actually see. And this is all very subjective. As we know, we could have a group of farriers and we all look at the same horse and we'd all do something slightly different. We look at a lame horse. Some people might say, yeah, it's lame right front. Often other farriers or veterinary surgeons may say, oh, he's lame right front, but it's compensatory lameness for a hind. So it's very subjective. And as you see from this diagram, this guy in the end, he sees 4 and he sees 3. Often we're tricked by our eyes. We can't always determine the end result because our eyes are deceiving us. And then we've got experience, and as I said to you, I've been a farrier for 35 years, and how often have we said this? Let me do things my own way. I've always done it this way. We usually say that when we're younger. I'm more experienced, and I'm willing to learn a lot of new thoughts and ideas. I'll always listen, but don't be afraid to fail. I don't so much like the word fail, but don't be afraid not to succeed first time, but be more afraid not to try. And I think we can get a little bit afraid of stepping out of our comfort zones. With modern techniques, especially what's worked in the past, we stick to it, and what sometimes new thoughts and ideas we don't always want to try because we're afraid that it's not going to work. But don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to not succeed. And that kind of stuck in your own ways, that attitude, it'll hold you back. So this is my badge. I should wear one of these. And I'm fairly open-minded in my work, in my daily work, and I'm not afraid to pick up the phone and call someone who knows a little more about a certain subject than I do. And this is where working with workmen and for workmen, innovative farriery is at the forefront. New thoughts and ideas, great products, and a great team. And this is what we get a lot from workman team farriers, especially with communication as such. We've opened up new thoughts and ideas, new avenues, and Workman's moving forward with lots of new ideas, and Werkman BLACK and Werkman Hoof care. And I think you'll see by the end of this presentation, we're really in a new era of learning. One of the things, if you don't have it already, I'm not a great bookworm. I'm not a great book person. I don't read a lot from books. I get a lot from visuals. So Hoof Explorer. It's an app designed by Afigos, and Workman have played a big part in the design with Hoof Explorer. And if you like that kind of thing, if you like apps for your iPad and want to learn more about anatomy, Hoof Explorer is a great one. And one of the taglines here, you remember the one earlier on, together we're stronger. Smarter skills, better horses, and again, that's what we're striving for. We want the best for the horse, and that's what we're working to achieve. And again, that's why we're here. Modern technology. Hopefully, all the tech works tonight. You're all receiving me loud and clear. Farriers, as I'm the same. I depend a lot on Facebook. Maybe not so much on Twitter. Lots of stuff on YouTube at the moment. Lots of people not only doing more gardening as we're in lockdown, but people are going to online learning. YouTube and Facebook. You may have seen some of the new Facebook sites like Lockdown Learning for Farriers. They're great avenues of information, and if you can fight your way through all the opinions and see some really cool new ideas and using the tech. And again, that's one of those things we're afraid of, especially at my age. Sometimes the tech gets a little hefty, and you're kind of like, whoa, I've done enough here. I don't need any more tech in my life. But it's keeping up to date with all these things. And I was saying earlier on, I use an iPad diary. My iPad does all my invoicing, and it's a valuable tool in my business. So using that iPad and all of these things will really take us forward in our careers. So these guys were at the forefront of technology probably in their day. As you can see, the horse has been used for many hundreds of years in agriculture, in warfare. Part of the reasons that we started to shoe horses in the first place was to keep these guys sound, to work on the fields, farming, and other reasons. From Egyptian times, horses have been used in warfare and mechanized warfare, and that's been a big part of the horse's life and careers. You can see this animal packing some mortar tubes. And as you know, many of us have learned techniques that have dated back. I think the army is a important infrastructure in farriery in every country around the world. The background of knowledge and teaching comes from a great deal from the army. So again, from as long as history has been recorded, the horse has been a big part of our lives, and farriery and the importance of keeping horses sound has been really important. There's a little cross section of some of the horses I shoe. There's Charlie again. You'll recognize him. And Charlie again. This is another Charlie that I shoe. I show a broad cross section of animals. Shires, racehorses, eventers, dressage horses. I'm lucky to shoe some fantastic horses and some of these athletes, and they've been my biggest teachers. But as we're aware, the changing roles in horses, and how we approach horses and how we deal with horses in farriery, in my short career, maybe a long career, our attitudes to animals are not our attitudes to the horse, and our understanding is leaps and bounds. what it has been. So these are some fantastic horses, successful dressage horses. Charlie's had a great career in eventing, and hopefully he'll go on to achieve more. So a little bit about the tech again. Can we measure? Again, we talked about iPads, iPhones, the tech that we use, and look at the minute technology that we have in an iWatch or a fitness watch. The things that the technology that we use on a day-to-day basis. Micro sensors in many things. As you'll be aware, you've probably all got smartphones. You've all had an iWatch or a fitness watch. And this is the kind of tech that we're going to be talking about tonight. So how can we measure? MEMS, micro electromechanical system. We describe that. IMU, inertial measurement units. Motion tracking technology. So this is what we're talking about, like these minute sensors, and this is how big. If you've not seen the Werkman BLACK system before, these are the minute sensors. These attach to the horse's hoof, so they attach, as you see in the video, with a small Velcro pad. I'll show you the small Velcro pad which comes in the suitcase, and Velcro on the back of the sensor, and they attach very firmly to the horse's hoof, as you can see. And these are tough. I've had my device for well over a year, and they've been through quite a lot. I've got over 600 measurements on my device, and these are tough little sensors. And within that motion tracking technology, those sensors, they pick up any sort of movement. So in here is an electronic gyroscope, an accelerometer. So basically, they can measure any movement in space and time. So this is what we're going to base our discussion on tonight, is Werkman BLACK. And again, the sensors, as you see, remote control, comes in a tough, durable suitcase, all wireless technology, so wireless charging. These sensors fit in a port in the suitcase. There's an integral battery in the suitcase, so it's all charged, wireless, and a remote control which can. So there's no wires, there's no connections. It's all Bluetooth. So what can we do with Werkman BLACK? We can quantify and compare many more things than this, but landing, stance, breakover, the swing phase, and timings of all of these aspects and more. So one of the taglines is see the unseen. So really what we talked about earlier on is our limitations within our eyes, what we can see and what we can't see. And what BLACK can reveal is what we can't see. So BLACK measures, as I think back to how many hertz we see at, BLACK measures with 1140 hertz. That's samples per second. And that's detection of the 4 phases within one step. It can detect stride asymmetry. So realistically, it can detect lameness, so stride asymmetry, and all movements during the whole step. And also, it can check the orientation of the hoof. So whatever position the hoof is in, either medial lateral, dorsopalmar, the orientation of the hoof can be measured. And we can measure on hard ground, soft surface, and at walk and at trot. At the moment, the sensors are validated for front feet, and there will be sensors for hind feet. They will be coming out in the future, in the near future. So at some point, you will see these sensors on all 4 feet. So imagine what we can do then. This is moving forward. This project has been on the go since before 2017. So the Werkman BLACK project is constantly moving forward. So that's one of my jobs as a Workman team farrier, is we're validating measurements. We're looking at stride patterns and different measurements. I've taken now over 650 measurements, 650 separate measurements. So all that data goes to a central cloud. So the data that comes from this, it's massive. It really is a gait analysis device that is here to stay, because it's going to develop, it's going forward. So it will measure mid-stance, breakover, swing, and landings. As we said previously, the stride phases. Mid-stance, we know about. Breakover, we think we know about. And again, Workman BLACK I could do a whole presentation on breakover. The things I've learned since I've used Workman BLACK about breakover that, I didn't know before, or how lame horses present and how breakover, maybe that's something that we'll see in the future. Hopefully I'll be able to put together another presentation just on breakover. We could talk all night on it. Swing phase, this is something I've, as a farrier, didn't really have to consider, but as a horseman, I've had horses all my life. I've ridden horses. The swing phase is something that I knew about, but I didn't really know how much I could influence the swing phase, and now I do. I guarantee if you change this, and you change this, this is going to be affected. So swing phase, although we don't know it, we're not taught very much about the swing phase. Whereas you talk to vets, physios, more so physios, the swing phase is very, very apparent and important in their learning. And as farriers, I'd say it's little considered. Landings, yeah, we think we know about landings, but there's a whole lot more to learn. So what Workman BLACK shows, 3D animations. So all of those movements that we talked about, we can animate those in 3D, and we're going to look some more into that. I'm going to show you some of the landing animations. I'm going to show you some of the new parts of Workman BLACK, the ring of Workman as well. So landing patterns, breakover patterns, and hoof movement during the stance. Which again, this is all new. This presentation tonight, you won't have seen this before. This is new material. And the ring of Workman as well. It's very new. Intervals between those stride phases, and compared between the left and right. So this is Charlie. This is the first screen of the measurement. So when you've taken a measurement with the sensors, so you apply the sensors, walk and trot. With an experienced person, I'll add, if you already have the device but you've not measured many horses with it yet, then you really need to have an experienced person to trot up. A good flat area is ideal. Minutes, this is the timing, the duration of the measurement. This is meters per second. So in walk, 1.6 meters per second. And in trot, 3.1 meters per second. And this is really important part, of the opening screen. When you've taken a measurement and you open up, we need at least 20 strides. To get a validated measurement, we need at least 20 strides. And this will flag up yellow if we've got less than 20 strides. So the sensors are programmed to pick up straight line strides. They will throw out the bad measurement. So if it's not an exact true straight line stride, if the horse was offline, or if you start to lunge a horse, obviously you won't get any strides that you can validate and use accurately. The hoof angle, this is not a static measurement. So Charlie's 2 feet, two slightly different angles. This is accurate plus or minus 1 degree, 48, 52 degrees, and right and left. So this is a dynamic angle measurement. So during the whole of the measurement, this sensor is picking up the angle, and the way that it's calibrated to the horse's foot, the devices inside can measure the constant angle of the horse's foot. And I know from this, and I know from experience, if I put a heart bar or a pour-in pad or a packer, I can influence this angle just with pressure from here alone, without any foot trimming. But yeah, I know that normal shoeing, I can change at least 3 degrees in a normal shoeing interval. So that's a dynamic angle. So again, we talked about stride asymmetry. So this is in the toolbar here, footfalls, and this is a real good go-to in the first part of the measurement. So landing, this is landing, this little triangle here, mid stance, and then the white triangle here is breakover. So again, you'll know landing, mid stance, and the first point of breakover when it's heel off. So you see at the beginning of the triangle there, heel off to the final point of breakover. So we can see when I measured Charlie, this is the first thing I looked at. So I was like, hey, there's something really strange going on in trot. We knew that, because look at this stride asymmetry, and I knew that Charlie was bilaterally lame. He'd already had some workups and diagnosis prior to us seeing him at the clinic. But this suggests in walk, instability, shortened stride on the left front, and then in trot, short mid stance on the right front. So he was bilaterally lame. But look at this landing. Landing shouldn't be the same as breakover. It should look something more like this in walk and trot. So this is where Charlie was a good example. If you think back to the nail heads, and how this progresses, this measurement, you'll see. So this is Charlie footfalls after shoeing. So this is a comparison mode. You'll see in the top right hand corner we can compare or have a chronological order of stride. So each one of these squares represents 25 milliseconds. So it's in timing, not in distance. So landing, mid stance, breakover, and you could see Charlie's footfalls after shoeing. We had a lot more symmetry in stride in walk and trot. So that's before shoeing and then after shoeing. So I was quite happy with this result. Part of the reason that as soon as the Ring of Workman came out, I said, I can't wait to look at Charlie's measurement, because Charlie was a great example of a real simple thing with the shoes. The nail heads were high, and just by we tested this, and I haven't included all of the measurement details. We rasped the nail heads off first, and then trotted up Charlie, and then we took the shoes off and trotted up Charlie again before we went through to shoe. So this was immediately after shoeing on the same day. So as I said, in footfalls we can look at the chronological stride pattern in walk and trot, and this is a real good go-to. When you've just measured a horse, you can look at the stride pattern and look at the asymmetry. Is this good at identifying lameness or characterizing lameness? Yes, I know that I've measured a lot of lame horses with Werkman BLACK, and these are often the results I see. So this is in a chronological order, so we'll skip through. The cool part, and this is what a lot of my owners like to see, is the 3D animation. So when we just measured a horse, I'll go to the analyze button, and basically you can revolve it as with an iPad, and look at every part of the stride animation and analyze in 3D. This doesn't tell me an awful lot, but it does tell me if there's any deviation in the strides. But a lot of the time, owners love this part, because it actually does replicate what you see, what you see with your eyes, in their stride patterns. You can actually see this in the 3D animation. So you see along here, we've got perspective, side and top. So this is the side view. This is a little more information here. So we've got stride length, 177 centimeters in walk, 222 centimeters in trot. And I've measured lots of horses, as I said, and Charlie in walk had a very low, flat stride pattern. Some horses like the Spanish horses, as you can imagine, the initial stride elevation is very high. So again, we can see from this line the median, and you can see a deviation from the median line. So the solid yellow line or the red line is the median, and you'll see that from the top view as well. So we've got top view here. We'll go top view, and here we go. And you can see from Charlie's stride pattern that there was more deviation from the midline. So there's more deviation from the median, and a little difference in right and left, different in walk to trot. But we know that lame horses need stability. They need stability in mid-stance, and if they can't get that, and this is what was apparent with Charlie. He was trying his hardest to do everything he had to do, and he couldn't get stability in mid-stance, and this was more and more apparent as we analysed the data as well that we saw. So this is a really useful part, stride length. We know from before and after shoeing that we can influence this. Going back to the opening slide with the speed, as long as you've got the same speed, and that's why experienced holders have always use the same person to trot up before and after. This is something, if you've already got a device, I reinforce that again. Try and use the same person, because everyone trots at a different pace. So it's good to use the same person before and after. Also, what Werkman BLACK does is measures landings. So this is flat landing, lateral heel landing, lateral toe landing, medial heel landing. From my experience as a farrier and as a farrier using Werkman BLACK, lateral heel landing is fairly typical. 16 milliseconds here. You can see the duration of stride. Landing flat, a lot of young horses, we get flat landing. I see this fairly typical, a lot of the horses that I shoot. Lateral toe landing, and you can see 38 milliseconds. If you've got a horse that's landing lateral toe and the duration of stride of landing is 38 milliseconds, that's fairly long. We need to be looking at that. Medial heel landing, from experience, less common, but again, a bit of a worry if you've got a horse that's landing medial heel. Corns and concussive injury are always a worry. So this is the footfalls graph, and as you can see, we talked about landings and duration of landings. Charlie was landing lateral heel. Each one of these red dots is a landing point, a landing spot. So every time that Charlie's foot lands, there's a plot in a red square. If it's more in one part, it gets darker, as you see there. And 50 milliseconds, this is high. Charlie was one of the highest measurements of duration of landing that I'd seen up to that point. 37 milliseconds, that's still high. 50's off, like way more than you'd expect. Charlie, hoof landing after shoeing. So you can see I was pretty proud of this. Straight after shoeing, duration of landings down that much. More than half. I brought the durations of landing down. 16 milliseconds is good, but from 50 to 17. I brought it down to less than I could actually see. So the animated hoof landings before shoeing. So again, we go back to this landing animation. So the graph that you could see, but look at this. And again, there's going to go into this in the ring of workmen. Look how many movements is in the hoof. You know, instability. This was before shoeing. So the nail heads were high. So instability and ground contact. He couldn't get stability. And this is why it looks so uncomfortable when we watched him on a straight line trot up on a hard surface. And when he turned as well, for those of you who are shoeing lots of horses, the same as we do, you know, if your nail heads are high, they're sticky. You know, they're sticky on the nail heads. They won't want to turn. If you've ever shot a laminitic and you've left the nail heads too high and it looks a little uncomfortable on the turn, I guarantee that's why. So this is when I first realised how much that Werkman Black picked up for me. You know, this movement you can see almost 3 times. So again, Charlie, animated hoof landings after shoeing, and watch this hoof when it comes into land. You'll see in a sec, straight down. Again, I was pretty proud of this this measurement. I knew this was a really impressive result for us in a first shoeing. Excuse me. So before shoeing, as you can see, we have a timings table. It's all numbers, I know, but I'll explain a little more as we go through. Mid stance, breakover, swing, landing. You know, breakover, 34 milliseconds difference. You know, so in landings, in trot, mid stance, as an overall of this number, 19 milliseconds isn't a lot, but 13 milliseconds. When you think that we said earlier on, many horses like landing patterns are 18 milliseconds or less. So his difference in landing left to right was almost as much as it should have been overall. So again, the timings table is really important, and that's not always the first thing when you first start using Werkman Black. It's not always the first thing that we look at, you know. After shoeing, again, when we get the difference, when we get these numbers more in line, so you think back 50 milliseconds, I'll go back to the one before. 50 milliseconds, a 13 millisecond difference. Landings come down 17 to 16 and a 1 millisecond difference in between left and right. So that, you know, again, there's good result for us. So again, going into the Ring of Workmen, this is really new. It was only released. It was only released in March. And so I've been working with Werkman, the Ring of Workmen, a little last year, and then it was deactivated for copyright reasons. And this is a really cool part of the measurement device. So what the Ring of Workmen concentrates more in detail on hoof landing, impact, load, and push off. So we can look at the hoof contact on the ground and, you know, the stability of the hoof in mid stance. So landing, as you see, keep this in mind and look at this graph here on the right hand side. This is how the graph plot looks on the Ring of Workmen. So the reverse triangle is landing. So if you think back to the previous plot graph, so the initial point of contact is the landing, and that triangle there is the first part. This is a fairly normal stride pattern, in and out, you know. So the initial contact between the hoof and the surface, start of the landing. This is shown with a triangle. So stance phase is the diamond in the center. So this one here, when the hoof is located completely on the surface and the landing phase has landed. So with initial contact to stance phase and mid stance, the hoof is parallel to the surface, contact is complete, and the ring, this is the ring, and it's completely filled. Yeah. Breakover. So again, the pointed triangle here, the triangle point indicates the start of breakover. So 0.5 degrees, the start of breakover, like so, and then on into final point of breakover. And we're going to animate that, and you can see from this. Excuse me. This is Charlie, Ring of Workmen, hoof landing before shoeing. Think back to the previous graph. There you go. This is normal. Yeah. And when I looked at the ring of workman and Charlie's measurement, I was like, whoa, this, look at that movement that you saw earlier on in the animated version, that movement forward and back. Charlie had got so many movements like this, he couldn't find any ground stability. So Charlie hoof landings before shoeing. You see some of the notes here. You can probably see this. I'll add notes in my measurement so I can remember things further back. Now that's high on second measurement. Charlie's first measurement was so hard to understand because I'd not measured a horse like this before. I measured it a second time because I thought, this must be wrong. 50 millisecond landings. Again, the landings in the ring of workman are shown here as well. So I measured twice and I got a very similar result. So Charlie ring of workman after shoeing. Here we go. So this is first point of contact into mid stance and then break over and off into final point of breakover. And again, each square here represents 2 degrees. So we're looking at, this isn't, what's important to understand, you may have seen pressure mats. This isn't a pressure mat. This is angle. So the angle of landing. So when a hoof comes into land, first point of contact, the angle of landing. So this is what you see here. Landing angle, and then into mid stance, and then we can also calculate the final point of breakover and the angle of breakover. So let's look at, this should be animated. So this is what we see actually when we press the play button on the ring of workman, from the first point of landing through to mid stance here to the final point of breakover and away and off. So again, we've got all the numbers relevant here. So what we want to see is a smooth transition, and what I'm starting to see with more and more measurements that I do, if there's a smooth transition into landing, into mid stance, and then breakover, very much like when we're walking, just the same. But if you've got big interruptions in mid stance, and again, the thing that we've got to consider here is how amazing this device is when we're measuring on soft surfaces. We can actually start to understand the function of some of the shoes that we're going to apply and how they alter the horse's stability in mid stance, especially on soft ground. So in conclusion to this, we can send a gait analysis report. And again, this is a new feature. I've been using it more and more now, and it's a really helpful thing to be able to share your gait analysis report with veterinary surgeons and owners alike, and other farriers who are going to follow after you. And it's a very daunting prospect when you first see the device and how it operates. Sometimes there's a lot of information to take in. So we can monitor movement and we can make this visible to our clients. And also the important thing here is documenting movement, and how I keep a lot of records. I video a lot of horses, and as you can see from this, I've also got a lot of movement and gait analysis documented as well. We also can compare this with previous measurements. So what we did with Charlie, we did a lot of comparisons with our first measurement. So during the process, we may be five shoeings in, and we'll look back to, when was this horse at his best? So it's been suggested that this is a great device for measuring a horse's optimum performance time after shoeing. So I've seen this. We don't always see what we want to see straight after shoeing. I think in very extreme cases, like in Charlie's case, it was evident that there was going to be a big improvement in just by taking the nail heads down. But sometimes changes can be a little difficult to get used to. But in the sport horse, if we're shoeing a sport horse every 4 to 5 weeks, which often some of the athletic horses that I shoe, we've got them on tight schedules for 4 weeks. And if your horse is lame for 4 or 5 days after it's shod, and I always say this to my client, if a horse is lame for 4 days after being shod, then if it's on a 4-week rota, that's too much time in that horse's life. I don't want that horse to be lame for 4 days after shoeing. I want it to be better than it was before I shod it. And that's my aim, that's my goal, and I can support this, in documenting that movement, and we can compare with previous measurements, and we can also report measurements to share. And the great thing about this device, and what we have also at the moment, is as a research tool. So we've got some really interesting reports and research that's going to come from this. And I think Jenny Hagen at Leipzig University, she's done some fascinating studies into alongside Werkman BLACK. And once this system is validated, we're going to see some fascinating results. So we're a little early. We're 5 minutes. We're right ahead of schedule. But thanks for your attention. Again, if you're already an owner of a suitcase of Werkman BLACK, then I hope you've got something to take away from this evening. And it's been great to be our first webinar here, and I think we're gonna open up for questions. And but thanks for your attention. But if you any more information or questions, please message to Werkman Hoof Care for a one-on-one demo if you're interested in black. But tonight, I hope we'll stay online for some time until we've answered questions. So I'm going to open up any hands up, and we can. We got Sue Jones. I'm going to open up to any questions, but thanks for your attention, and let's have a look. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you've got. We're all quiet. Got one in the chat. Let's have a look. Oh, here we go. Hi there. You have a question for me?
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, it's Kate.
Hi, Kate. How are you doing?
How are you? Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I was just want to ask if was it only the lateral medial imbalance on Charlie that made him lame? With your conclusions afterwards, after you shot him?
Charlie was much improved. He's had intermittent bilateral lameness.
Yeah.
But he's had periods of time when he's been sounder. But certainly the dramatic change was what I wanted to show. But he had prior soft tissue injuries, although not had an MRI specific. He'd got some changes in the coffin joint in the navicular region. So the pads that he had on, the wedged pads, we tried to take him back to a flat shoe again, but then we found that we needed to put a bar shoe on. So some of the treatment's been ongoing with Charlie, but as we wanted to demonstrate was the dramatic change in just the fact that it was so simple, that the nail heads were high, and certainly from experience and from my early days in my career, I was very much told that nail heads high nail heads were a real bad thing for a lot of horses, and for them to maintain soundness. And I think that's is how we can support these things. I'm always saying to the guys, hey, rasp the nail heads off. Don't let that horse go with standing on the nail heads, because what they're going to do.
Do you have?
Sorry.
Do you have that as a standard now on all horses? You do rasping the nail heads down.
I'm obsessed with good nail fit. And I use a nail that fits in a shoe. I personally use Werkman shoes a lot, because the nail holes are so good, and I can get a good nail fit with the Werkman shoe. Warrior Special is my favourite. Striker's second favourite, and so good nail fit is really important. And I think that's something we've maybe overlooked. We're using a nail that we like to use, but we've because we're using 8mm a lot more, and we're still using E-heads on a lot of shoeing, and I say to some guys, hey, why are you using an E-head on an 8mm when it's a bit? So that for me, I've always tried to keep horses on a flat level surface, and but yeah, Charlie's been sound for some time. He's had a few relapses, but it seems to be very much linked to his medial lateral balance. So I suspect that the soft tissue injuries are probably collateral ligament may be involved. From experience, I see this quite a lot. Thanks, Kate.
Thank you, John. Take care.
Thank you. So, any more questions? I'm here. Oh, you got Hans Petter. We got a hand up from Hans. No. Well, guys, it's been great to be here. Oh, Jason Sim. Where's Jason? There you go. Hi, Jason. How you doing? Oh, there we go. Unmute. Jason.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. How you doing?
Really well. Brilliant presentation. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Just two questions. One was, how did you shoe Charlie that day to get those results?
Should have mentioned that. A lot of these horses, like with Charlie, there was so many complex methods that were applied, and it takes great skill to carry that off. But when we've got lamenesses, I tend to take them back to flat level, normal shoe, fairly normal shoe, but with breakover in mind, because we knew there was differences in breakover, so we tried to improve breakover, improve landing, and we put on a normal shoe, Warrior Special.
With no padding.
No padding. We didn't put anything because
So you improved it by.
We're going to press the reset button here and take this because this horse is so far away from the norm, and this is what a lot of the time in the horses that I treat and shoe, if we've got a complex method, we kind of get lost in it, don't we?
Yes. So simplify it to then give yourself a baseline.
Always.
And then, but then that was backed up by the Werkman BLACK, obviously.
But what I could have included in this, but I thought that it would take too long, was this barefoot measurement. And it's fascinating when you start taking shoes off horses and measure them barefoot immediately after,
So you think that's a really important aspect to look into when we're dealing with these?
I like to do it, but then there's factors involved like muscle memory. So So it's apparent that I've seen frequently on many horses that I've taken shoes off and remeasured, landings have switched from heel to toe. But then when I've measured again, say 10 days later, so occasionally we've had lame horses and we've said, hey, we're just going to pull the shoes and leave them off for a few days.
Let them reboot and then start from there.
Yeah, so initial landings sometimes immediately switch from the opposite where they were. So they've switched from heel to toe. and then they've settled back down to where they were before, but slightly improved sometimes. But it gives me a good baseline, you know. So I think it's really helpful when you've got a complicated shoeing method. Either sometimes I've overcomplicated things myself, and I
We've
thought,
all
hey, you
done
know,
that.
I'm just going to press the reset button here. I'm
Yeah.
going to go back to a normal shoe, but first I'm going to measure barefoot and then see where we are. So yeah, I think it's helpful. But I've also done the opposite. I've measured barefoot horses that have been lame and shod them, and I've had immediately better results, you know. So, but yeah,
And it, well, yeah,
it's a really cool thing to do, and it's helped me understand more about my own shoeing.
yeah. Well, we can all do that, but that's for sure. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. Thanks for coming along. Thanks for joining us.
It's been brilliant. It's been brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thanks. So we got any more questions? So yeah, thanks. I think we've got through the questions there. Thanks for joining me. It's been a lot of fun. The tech held up. Our dog didn't bark. I offered our daughter £10 to make sure the dog stayed quiet, but yeah, he stayed quiet. No cats jumped on the table, so brilliant. But it's been a lot of fun, and I hope that you'll join me in future webinars for Workman, and I look forward to the next one. And I'm signing off now. And stay safe, everyone. Stay safe and well, and we'll hopefully see you soon. Thank you.